Hey guys, it's Cognitive Pit for Pronto Gaming, and I'm bringing you a Diablo 3 Explosive Blast Wand of Woe Wizard build. Now, the important part of this build is that you have a Wand of Woe. What this does is creates 3 additional Explosive Blasts after you cast Explosive Blast. So every cast of Explosive Blast, you cast 3 more for free. So, pretty overpowered. A lot of you probably heard about it, but there's a few different builds going out, Arcane and Fire. This one is for Fire. Now, here are the skills you'll be using. You'll want Black Hole with Supermassive, mainly just for the CC. It's not actually a fire skill, so the damage that it does is going to be minimal. So it's 100% just for CC. You're going to have Magic Weapon. You can either use Force or Deflection. It really depends on how high of a Torment difficulty you're playing on and exactly what you're trying to achieve. Teleport Calamity. I like Calamity a lot because not only does it do a little bit of damage, but it also stuns things, so it's extra CC, but then you also have the teleport away. And with the changes to teleport, this is still really good. Wormhole isn't the most obvious choice anymore. Next, we have Frost Nova. Great CC. We use it with the Cold Snap rune, which is going to lower the cooldown, and then it's also going to increase the freeze time to 3 seconds, which is very, very useful. The main skill is Explosive Blast, which does 320% weapon damage if you're using the Chain Reaction rune, which is the one that we're going to be using. What Chain Reaction does is casts 3 consecutive blasts, which means we're casting 12 blasts on every cast, because the Wand of Woe will cast the rune that you have in for Explosive Blast. So it's outrageously powerful. And then finally we have Energy Armor. Prismatic Armor is usually the best, especially if you're going to be playing on Torment 6, but Pinpoint Barrier is pretty good too. For the passive skills, we have Evocation for the cooldown reduction, which allows us to cast Explosive Blast more quickly, which is where all of our damage comes from, is from Explosive Blast. It also reduces the cooldown of Teleport and Frost Nova and Black Hole, allowing for massive CC. Next, Audacity. Everything's going to be pretty close, so it's 15% additional damage, which majorly trumps Glass Cannon because you don't have the decrease in damage. Next, Illusionist. This is really good because it allows you to teleport all the time. If you take too much damage, you can teleport out of there, or it'll help reset the cooldown, you can teleport in. So it's actually very useful. And finally, Blur. I use Blur because I play on Torment 6 normally. You can always switch this out if you want a Glass Cannon and play on a lower difficulty. That's perfectly fine. But you don't need things like Prodigy or Astral Presence. So there's actually not that many good choices. Elemental Exposure can be okay, but mainly I think this is a pretty good setup for Torment 6. Now, for this build, gear is actually super important, which is something really common in Reaper of Souls. Gear makes the build. And of course, I already mentioned the Wand of Woe being very important. But there's also something even more important, not more important, but equally as important as the Wand of Woe, and that's reduce cooldown of skills. So on my Wand of Woe, I've got 6%. I've got some from sets that I have, and then with Evocation, it's even more cooldown. So I have 58.94% cooldown reduction, which is a pretty good place to be. I would take more, and I really wouldn't give up a point of it for anything at all, because it's outrageously powerful. I'm going to show you just how powerful, in fact, because look how fast my Frost Nova actually comes off cooldown. Now, Frost Nova cools for 3 seconds, which means that the cooldown actually ends up being roughly 3 seconds, a little bit over 3 seconds, but barely over 3 seconds. So things can be constantly frozen by having this cooldown. You'll also have a really, really, really quick cooldown for Black Hole. It's not as quick as Frost Nova, but in between Frost Novas you can do that, and you're going to have outrageous CC. But the important part is that it determines how fast you're going to be casting your Explosive Blasts. Now, Explosive Blasts can be chained on top of each other. As you can see, I'm able to use it before it's done casting. The reason cooldown reduction is so good is not only does it mean that there's no breaks between any of my casts, it also means that casts will start overlapping, and I'll be casting even more. So I'll actually get more damage per second by having a higher reduced cooldown for skills. So those are the important part of the build. The most important thing is the Wand of Woe. Now, the Wand of Woe, it really doesn't matter how much damage is on it. Your sheet damage actually no longer matters at all, because you're going to be doing so much damage with Explosive Blast that it really does not matter at all what your sheet damage says, and don't let anyone tell you differently. Now, there's some other really important items to this build that are optional for sure, but you definitely still want them. The first one being the Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan. Mine are god-awful. They are the worst I could have possibly rolled, practically. The int is average. The vitality is 1 above minimum. I've got Spectral Blade damage that I can't reroll on it, which is absolutely worthless to me. And I've got sockets, which is definitely needed. But the point of it is your resource regeneration and damage is increased by 25% while moving, and decreased by 23% while standing still. Now, you're going to be moving the whole time. You can run around and cast this, because you don't actually have to stop to cast. You can cast everything, basically moving. And that increases your damage by a lot. You can see it go up from under 600k to over 900k, making it a little bit better. If I had better pants, it would be even better. But I'm still going to use them, because that extra 25% damage is, like, really high. That's a lot, and you're not going to get those on better pants. The other things that are good are the Captain Crimson's set, with the Born set. Both of the sets have cooldown reduction, 10% from the Borns and 10% from Captain Crimson's. These are kind of a pain to get and roll well, so some of my rolls aren't good. I was using the pants before, which I actually have pretty decent pants, but because of the Hexing Pants that I got, you want to wear those over it, which means you leave open the boots for the Crimsons and the belt for the Crimsons, which are really good. For Borns, there's only 3 pieces, which have to be the chest and the shoulders, because the other one is a weapon. This is where people get a little confused and say, well, Cinder Coat, though. Cinder Coat's really good. Cinder Coat actually isn't that good. Not for this build. It's fine. I'd say it's average, because we're not actually using any resources for Explosive Blast. Basically none. We can cast this forever, and we'll never run out. So we don't actually need the reduced cost of fire skills at all. And for the fire skill damage, while it's good, as you can see, all chests roll Explosive Blast damage. Which means, since Explosive Blast is our actual only real damage source, the fire damage really doesn't give us that much more than just pure Explosive Blast damage. It gives us very little more. So, having a Borns over a Cinder Coat, a Borns can actually roll just as good as the Cinder Coat. Well, it can roll a little bit worse, depending on your Cinder Coat, because Cinder Coat can roll 20% fire damage versus the 15% on Explosive Blast. But that is a very, very small margin, because you get 15% extra life, which is fine, a little bit of bonus experience, which is whatever. But most importantly, you get the 10% cooldown reduction, which, as we know, equates into more damage. Other than that, Mage Fists are good. You need your Royal Ring. Mine is absolute garbage, so any Royal Ring will do. And SOJ is good. Everybody knows Storm of Jordan's good. Oghills is really good, because you get the reduced damage against elites and increased damage to elites, which is great. But other than that, I mean, the main component of this is Wand of Woe. And without the cooldown reduction, you're not going to seem as good as you could be. You're going to see people using this build, and you're not going to be able to match it without the cooldown reduction. So farm for the set pieces. It's not that hard. It'll take you a day, because it's all craftable. You can get it no matter what. No matter what. So farm for them when you have your Wand of Woe. This build is actually insane. It does so much CC and a ton of AoE damage. And that's why this is possibly the #1 build for Wizards to do Torment 6. Alright guys, if you liked the video, please check out our stream, twitch.tv/prontogaming. We stream daily. Check it out. We've got a blog. All that information is in the description. Thanks for watching, guys.